Welcome to Seattle Public Utilities Ask Evelyn Live, where we answer your questions about recycling, compost, garbage, and other trashy topics. I'm your host, Becca Fong, and this week's episode, it's in the reusable bag. What's going on with single-use plastic bags and BYOB? So it's Plastic Free July, and it is all about ditching single-use. We are going to be talking about, we got a really great question from one of you out there about what to do with one of the most infamous single-use plastics, the plastic bag. And in addition to this week, hey, Pat.
Hi, how you doing, Becca?
I'm doing good. So I was just telling folks, so why don't you introduce yourself for those of us who are joining us for the first time.
Hey, everyone. I'm Pat Kaufman. I'm the Commercial Recycling and Composting Program Manager for Seattle Public Utilities. Do recycling, composting, reusables, all these waste prevention things. Happy to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. And I was just telling folks that we are going to be joined by a really special guest, Hannah Scholes from Waste Management Pacific Northwest team.
Right.
So we're going to be logging her on here in just a second. So I was telling folks, it's Plastic Free July, and it's all about getting rid of single-use plastics, right? Figuring out different ways to do that, and that's going to be shifting here and there. So, and also a good reminder that this show is run on your questions. Every week we answer something that comes in from you guys, and you can send them to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or send us an email at askevelyn@seattle.gov.
Right.
All right, here's our very special guest, Hannah. Hey, how's it going?
Hey, Becca. It's so fun to be here. My name's Hannah with Waste Management. I manage the education and outreach team, and my team and I are out on the streets helping businesses and even individuals recycle right and reduce their waste. It's pretty fun.
Awesome. We are super excited to have you on the show because we're going to talk about one of the most infamous single-use plastics, the plastic bag here. So, all right, this week we got a really great question, and it comes from Riza. And Riza writes, what can I do with all the plastic bags since grocery stores switched to them due to COVID concerns? I know that they don't go in the recycling at home. And also, when am I going to be able to use reusable bags again? So really, really good questions. There were some big shifts due to COVID. So Pat, what's our quick answer for Riza?
Yeah, so the quick answer is that reuse is always the best. You know, in the hierarchy of bags, if you will, reusable bags, always top notch. Really encourage folks to do that. Most stores are allowing reusable bags again, so that's the first one. And then plastic bags. If you've got them, if you've been collecting them, if they've been part of your, shopping, system recently, then if you have a bunch of plastic bags, then you're going to want to use one of the plastic bag recycle bins at one of the grocery stores. There are several stores in the area, from QFCs to Safeways and some of the independent stores like Ballard Market and Metro Markets. Those stores have those bins at the front of the store. You can bring in your plastic film, your plastic bags, and put them in there. So it has to be clean and dry as a thing. And we can talk more about that in a minute, but those are the two main things I would pass along on that question.
Okay. And then what about BYOB? Where are we at with that? Since both of you work with commercial businesses, that's been kind of a changing landscape. Where are we at?
Well, I think most stores are allowing them now if you need your reusable bags. I think it's the best way to go. We all did it really, really well leading up to COVID, and now it's really been, clarified, I think, by health department and such that the reusable bags are not, a transfer of the COVID virus. So we're in safe place. It's okay to reuse your bags. All stores that I've experienced, and I go to a few different markets in my area, but they're all allowing the reusable bags again. So that's the best option.
Cool. All right, let's get into some of the details. Let's tap into Miss Hannah's expertise here. So taking them back to the store. So Pat, you mentioned a couple of places that are going to have bins now. And we talk a lot about why, we're not allowed in our recycler carts at home or our dumpsters at home, but why is that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We get this a lot, folks. So when those plastic bags end up in the recycling cart at your home, they're mixed in with all the rest of your recycling, and that goes to the recycling center where we have to sort it out. The problem comes that when those plastic bags are stretchy, they get all wrapped around the recycling equipment at the sorting facility, and it actually causes our facility to shut down so workers can go in and cut plastic bags out of equipment. It's pretty dangerous for workers. It's a safety hazard, and it also is really inefficient for our equipment. And once plastic bags get all tangled up like that, they're no longer able to be recycled because they're so torn up and damaged and dirty. So the best thing to do, like Pat said, is take those plastic bags back to a grocery store to recycle them or reuse them at your home.
Yeah, reuse them at the home. That was another point about that. Is like if you, like we have 2 cats at home in my house, right? So there's a steady stream of kitty litter to be bagged.
There's a need.
There's a need. So you bag it up, tie it off, put it in the garbage can. I mean, it's the majority of what we throw out each week, it seems like. But the point is that, not everybody on our block has cats. And so one of our neighbors gives us her bags, her produce bags or bags that she just sort of, by way of consumption, she collects bags. It's just a natural order of things. So if you have a lot of bags and you have a friend who has a cat, I mean, there's a perfect option for reuse right there.
Yeah.
Recycling's good, but rather than having your neighbor have to buy plastic bags to do a chore, it'd be nice to reuse the bags that are already been used once. So that's a thought.
That is such a great idea. I just got a puppy, so I'm now starting to be collecting puppy waste in my plastic bags, but I need to get my neighbors on board with this, donating plastic bags to me.
It's true. You heard it here first. If your neighbor's with Hannah, she needs some plastic bags from you.
Bring them my way.
So the other thing, Hannah, that we get questions a lot from customers since we have you is about bagging my recyclables. I got a question last week from a customer who was really confused about what to do about that. She's collecting her recyclables at home in a plastic bag and then putting them in her cart. And so what can you tell us about why that doesn't work very well?
Unfortunately, it's the same problem. We can't have recyclables in plastic bags because they'll cause those same problems at the recycling facility, getting up in the equipment. So if you collect it in a plastic bag, one option is to just empty that plastic bag to your container, whether you have a dumpster or a cart at your house, and then you can reuse the plastic bag again to collect recyclables again. Or like a paper bag is actually an option for collecting recyclables as well.
Here we go. Like one of our illustrious producers says, don't be a drag, take it out of the bag. So,
nice.
That's another option. So one other thing, we were talking about BYOB, so bringing your own bags back, and it sounds like that's a good option. Seattle's had a bag ban since 2017 and everything shifted because of COVID. And that the bag ban really helped reduce the number of bags that were just kind of out there in the stream, right? Yeah. So, where are we at with reinstituting that bag ban? Seattle had one. There's one. We've talked about Senate Bill 5022 for all you waste nerds out there. That's coming up. So you two work in the commercial sector. I would love to know where we're at.
Well, I'll start. I'll just say that the city's bag went into a non-enforcement status during COVID. It's technically still in that status right now because of the state of emergency. That was a proclamation by the mayor. So, we're still in this situation where stores may not have access to supply. There may be issues around that. So some stores are still maybe using the thin plastic bags, which is not compliant, but there's not enforcement. So it's still happening. So that's that's a snapshot of where we're at today. But October 1st is when the statewide bag requirements go into effect. The governor released the state of emergency on some of the new laws that were to go into effect last year. They were postponed, put on hold. Long story short, October 1st, all of Seattle and the state will be under the same requirements. It's the new statewide bag ban law. So the thin plastic bags, the thank you bags that we see around so often will no longer be allowed. And we'll all pivot to that kind of alignment of requirements, which is, there's many. It goes from 5 cents to 8 cents for Seattle folks, FYI.
Okay.
The paper bag is a charge. The thicker plastic reusable bag, they call them. They're thick reusable bags one can use over and over again. That's an 8-cent charge. If a store chooses to use compostable bags, which is a carry-out bag option, those don't have to have the charge, but a lot of stores will put the charge on it. The actual legislation didn't require the charge on compostable, but the real kicker for the whole law that I think is going to be the most impactful is that restaurants are now in the mix too.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay.
So in Seattle, our law only applied to retail and grocery. And it didn't apply to restaurants. Now, statewide, restaurants, retail, grocery, any carry-out bag use is now under this law. So yeah, big changes.
Hannah, I'm curious, as you're working with commercial customers on that restaurant front, are you hearing from folks, how are they kind of getting ready for that?
Yeah, I mean, people are preparing, which is very cool to see. And our WM outreach team is actually out helping businesses do this work. So if you're out there and this is kind of panic time for you, get in touch with us because we've got lots of resources to help you get set up with those acceptable bags and make it run smoothly. And the other cool thing I'd like to mention about this upcoming legislation and some other bills that are coming online soon is the requirement for recycled content to be used in the bags.
Oh, right.
That's really awesome because it supports recycling markets. So you're not only kind of reducing the amount of plastic bags out there, but we're actually driving demand for recycled plastic material, which is really cool.
Right. And some of the bags have, like this is a sample bag I got from a manufacturer. You know, it's great. It's one of those thicker ones.
Wow.
It has it says on it, made from post-industrial waste. Well, that's not what we're talking about. The requirements are the post-consumer waste. So post-consumer recycled content, PCR content. And so that's what's really neat. The first phase of the requirements, on all bags, what it creates is it creates the market for the collected plastic to go to. Because then the bag manufacturers have to source this material, post-consumer material, not post-industrial, not the cuttings on the storeroom floor of the bag production place, but the actual consumer closing the loop. It's 20% content first phase, and then in a couple of years it goes to 40%. So pretty significant closed looping action there in that legislation.
I have one question for you guys really quickly, working with commercial customers. When we go to no more, single-use disposable plastic bags, those thin ones for to-go pickup, are we going to be able to bring reusable bags, or have we not gotten there yet? I don't know.
Do you guys know anybody that takes a reusable bag to their restaurant to pick up orders? It's not a common thing yet.
It's not.
We're all gonna start to do that, I think. I think it's, if you go back to like when we were kids and like, no, who brought you reusable bags to the supermarket? Hardly anybody ever did, right? It just wasn't a thing. And that became sort of a cultural norm once the awareness was there and people started talking about it. So I think the restaurant industry I think we'll see that. It's a little different though, because they prepare your food, sometimes bag it up and then you show up. Whereas at the grocery stores is that checkout aisle, you're part of the process. So it's a different hill to climb. And I think we're going to see a slower, kind of adoption of the reusable bag in the grab and go food space. But the opportunity is there. Absolutely.
Sure. I would agree. And I would say one of the big challenges for me, just as a user of these bags, is just remembering to bring them with me. So that's the other hurdle when we get to the restaurant space is, okay, I've finally gotten the habit of taking it to the grocery store, but then I also take it to the restaurants. I take it with me when I go clothes shopping. So I started like squirreling away bags, reusable bags all over my house. They're by my front door. They're in my car. They're in every bag I ever take with me.
These little stuff sacks are great for that, Hannah, right? These little ones we get, we hold the whole bag out. I'm not a magician. This is actually a bag.
Totally. That's a super good tip. And actually, since this is our last show for Plastic Free July, do you guys have any good tips and tricks? Because that's really what it is. It's the behavior change to remember to have it be convenient, right? So you don't get to your point of purchase and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't have my reusable thing, but I have 8 of them at home. So what are some tips and tricks you guys have just to help all of the rest of us out there make that switch?
Go ahead, Anna.
Yeah, I'll just say the one thing I'm working on next beyond the grocery shopping bag is the reusable produce bags. So
those are nice.
Some of these mesh produce bags, and they're super handy because you can just toss them in the laundry to wash them and then reuse them again, and you don't have to collect all those plastic produce bags too. So going above and beyond over here.
Awesome.
Nice. I like those. Those are pretty great.
I think the other thing we haven't really talked about much is what I expect that the restaurants many of them will shift to the compostable single-use bag because it is a lighter duty bag. Sure. And it's not that heavy duty plastic bag, or it's not a big paper bag. So I think, but the cool thing about these is that these are great. Then when you bring home your to-go order, you can then line your kitchen catcher with it. And you have to buy those little boxes of compostable bags. So I think that's going to be another trend, plastics reduction sort of. It's kind of like that it's substituting a reuse for the purchasing of a bag product, the compostable bag. So that has a lot of promise for reducing overall. But yeah, and then I think Plastics Free July, just being able to come out of the COVID situation and have the state bag requirements come into effect. I think the reusable shopping bag, and as Hannah said, like when you go clothes shopping, back to school shopping, all these shopping trips are great chances to bring your reusable bag with you.
Totally. I mean, the trick that I was going to give is the one you just showed, Pat. You took the magic out of my suggestion that I have those kind of stuffed sack bags. I try to remember the larger grocery sacks, but those are so great for just a couple of items. I mean, I have been known to leave the store with like my arms full of things where they're like, do you need a bag? I'm like, no, I'm good. Like, and I'll just carry the stuff out. That's also a good trick. Just to be really cognizant of like when you really need to use something that's intended for single use. So that's kind of my small little trick. So I did want to have a reminder for all of you out there is that our Rethink Waste grant, which we partner with Waste Management on, is happening right now. And it's open for applications. It closes August 13th. And so if you guys have an idea for a community project or you are a small business that would like to do something that either increases the amount of recycling and composting that happens in your community or business, or you have a project that you would like to just, minimize the amount of waste that's produced, then please, we'll put a link to our show notes and please submit an application to our Rethink Waste grants. So we're awarding between $500 and $5,000. So a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah, like I said before, $5,000, that's not nothing. That's
It is not nothing.
You could do a lot of waste prevention stuff with $5,000, in partnership with the city and Waste Management. But it could be a great project. So give us some thought,
Absolutely. All right, Hannah, I was just talking about the Rethink Waste grants. And thank you so much for joining us. It's so great to have, you on the show with your knowledge and your expertise. And also just like your perspective on how things work behind the scenes within the recycling facility. That's super great. And we hope to have you back again.
Thanks, Hannah.
Been so fun. Thank you.
All right, folks. Well, that's this week's show. And we hope to see you next week, Wednesday, 1:30. And thank you so much for tuning in. Remember, this show is powered by your questions. So Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or drop us an email at askevelyn@seattle.gov. And with that, I'm Becca Fong, and life's simpler with less stuff.
And I'm Pat Kaufman. Remember to recycle right, everybody. See you next week.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye, Hannah.
Bye, Hannah.